Hello, Web Summit. We really have a very in-demand set of people here. We have here Oisin Hanrahan from Handy, Neil Reimer from Index Ventures, of course, Kevin Gibbon from Ship, and Will Shu from Deliveroo. You know, I think there's genuinely no more interesting topic right now when it comes to technology. These companies, and Neil as an investor, they're changing entire industries, changing the way we work, causing havoc for government, and we're going to be talking about all of those things. But let's start, before we get into the sort of macro geopolitics of this. Ultimately, you're all talented people who could do any number of things. And I'm interested in understanding why you chose to do what you do. So Will, Deliveroo, what's the mission behind what you do?
Deliveroo, what we do is we are a high-quality food delivery company. We work with your neighborhood's best restaurants, and we bring the meals to your house in 30 minutes. Why am I doing it? Simply because I was dissatisfied with the incumbent delivery food services out there, and I wanted to create something better.
Fair enough. Kevin, what gets you out of bed in the morning? How are you trying to make a dent in the universe?
The reason that we started Ship was actually a personal pain point of mine when I was in college, like 10 years ago. I used to be an EV power seller, and this shipping piece was the most terrible piece of that business. And just saw an industry that hasn't been changed in like decades since FedEx really came along. And with this entire convergence of mobile, on-demand and everything, I think that it was just ripe for disruption.
Actually, is that your thinking as well? Is it a sort of sense of a opportunity, or what is it that keeps you going?
Look, I think what you're hearing is people have problems and they want to solve those problems. So you think about, the number of people who need a handyman, who need a plumber, who need an electrician, who need a carpenter, who need a cleaner, and we want to go out and solve that problem and make it so that you can press a button and have every service delivered to your home, and that's what Handy's all about.
Neil, when you're looking, you can choose to invest in, a whole bunch of different sectors. You've chosen, amongst others, to really focus on this on-demand area. Why is that? What is it about the mission of these companies that excites you?
I think what really appeals to us is the fact that these are businesses that leverage technology, a business model change, to really disrupt big sectors of the economy. So you can build businesses that will be very significant in terms of size and value within 5 to 10 years. So these guys are going after very big segments, and they're kind of leveraging the fact that everybody's got this universal remote control for their lives in their pocket. And if they can build services that, fulfill a need in a delightful way and scale, those are pretty good things to invest in.
Clearly, with that scale comes great opportunity. When you're thinking about jobs that are being created, supported, and so on, it's clearly a big topic of conversation. What do you think the sort of best case to make to government and the media and so on is on the jobs you support? At Deliveroo, Will, how do you think about jobs and the labour market and what you do?
I think, every day, we have about 2,500 cyclists and scooter drivers that we work with, and they work incredibly hard. And I think what we provide them is a really flexible way to earn extra money. Typically, they also are engaged in other jobs as well, and it's a way for them to supplement their income and also work, on a very flexible basis.
And do you have sort of data on, is that a sort of typical case then? Someone is, working 9 to 5 somewhere else and then is topping up with you guys?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of, for example, university students who work with us on bicycles. They'll work 3-4 days a week for 2-3 hours at a time and go back to their studies. We also have some scooter drivers that work for different courier companies during the day, for example, transporting documents or lab samples, and at night they work for us.
Right. And is that the case with you at Ship?
Yeah, I think of it a little bit different. I really want to provide really a great employment for people. And the flexibility, of course, is important. The line of business, the work that we're in, we don't have these, like a lot of the food delivery companies, the ride sharing companies, that have these really high peaks and low valleys. With our service, we ship things and people have different needs. And so we can actually have really steady shifts. Of course, flexibility is really important. And this is actually one of the reasons we started out with an entire 1099 workforce. And we just recently converted all of them over to W-2. And they love it. It's really great. Really see like really big opportunities. In an ideal scenario, they could start off as a courier. We have different types of people, not just on the courier side. We have people working in the warehouse, everything like that. But we've seen also a lot of people will rise up within the actual company and take marketing, operations roles, all those things. And to me, that's the best scenario.
And so just to be clear on this, am I right in thinking that your drivers are now counted as employees rather than contract workers? And if that's the case, A, why did you do it? And B, what kind of difference does that make to your costs?
Yeah, it definitely is. If you look at just the raw costs, it does increase them. Some of the reasons that we did it was actually to improve our operational efficiencies. And also the training piece. I think something that nobody really talks about, but as a 1099, you cannot train people. You can't tell them to wear this shirt. You can't do all those things. I think there's a lot of companies that are treading that line very closely. But for us, we saw it just to be able to train people, to be able to count on them for when somebody actually requests a pickup, that person goes there and has that really great experience. That to us was really important, and we've already seen. So we've done the actual full conversion, and we're already seeing the operational efficiencies. So I hope actually when it's all said and done, it'll net out to 0% cost increase.
Neil, there's a sort of view from that you see around the place, which is that a lot of the advantage that new on-demand companies have is that the people that work on their platform are contractors, not employees. What would you think about, if the American regulatory system moved in a direction that required Uber to make its drivers employees? How big a change do you think that would be huge?
I mean, different services have different operating metrics and different unit economics. And so what works for Ship, because they have more of a level, kind of demand base, wouldn't work for some of these other businesses, which only really exist because they can scale with demand, right? And they don't go bankrupt when there's less demand.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other. I mean, this thing really works because, you can kind of dial it up on a Sunday night when everybody's watching the game and everybody wants to eat food, and then dial it down without. So these things go hand in hand. You can't really have a scalable business with volatile demand and have everybody be a full-time employee. That doesn't mean that these businesses exist to exploit anybody. These are not, 18th century mining companies. These are startups that are started by, visionary people with great values, and so they intend to take care of everybody who works for them, whether they're employees or contractors.
Actually, how have you thought about this at Handy? Are your people contractors, employees? Could you switch?
So we started 3 years ago with the view that the way people buy services is broken and the way people sell services is broken. So you think about the experience to buy, we all know how painful it is. You go online and you look for referrals from family members, friends, and you go through this negotiation and bidding and scheduling process, and it's really painful. The same is going on the sell side. So by changing to a world where we allow people to claim jobs really, really flexibly, it delivers a better experience to our pros. So every single week, we have over 10,000 people earning money on the Handy platform. They earn a minimum of $15 an hour, an average of $18 an hour, and 80% of them work less than 20 hours a week. 50%, so 1 in 2, work less than 10 hours a week. This is incremental, supplemental income that you're seeing help people do things. So whether it's they're taking care of kids, they're taking care of family, they're working another job, they're upskilling, this is incremental income that's allowing them to do more with their lives.
Yeah.
I just think, just one more point on that. I think it's important also to state that it's not just about flexibility or the wages. For our drivers, I think being part of a community is very important. For example, in Paris, we staff almost 100% cyclists. And I think the team there has done an incredible job of building an atmosphere around the job that these guys are, a lot of them are professional couriers, and they feel an affinity to our company and the job. And we've done things like sponsor road races. We give people coffees on the street. So it's really building that great team dynamic, and I think that's tremendously important.
Yeah, I spent years working in government before I gave up politics to try and earn an honest living as an entrepreneur, and there clearly is a lot of debate in government and in the media, though. So you've set out the positive case for this kind of flexibility and incremental income. I mean, do you understand why there's concern? And does that create risk for what you do? I mean, Neil, as an investor, it's part of your brain thinking as you're looking at a company, okay, where's the regulation going to go here?
Yeah, I think we are used to investing in businesses where the regulatory environment still needs to be fully figured out. I mean, if we weren't willing to do that, we shouldn't really be in this business, whether it's in financial services or commerce or even healthcare. We won't invest in something where we think the winds of regulation are dead against it. But where we think that there's a solid, benefit to both sides of an equation, or both sides of a marketplace, and they just need to iron out the details to make sure that nobody's being taken advantage of. We're used to that, and I think the other thing is that these companies see that, and they will probably, get out in front of any regulation and kind of adopt these things as their own practices, or get together in groups and figure this stuff out. I understand where this is coming from, and that they want to try to protect a new workforce, and that makes a lot of sense. If they're there to protect, kind of entrenched incumbents, that's not so good. And if they regulate to the point where it kills the opportunity for consumers and for workers, that's not good either. So somewhere in the middle, we'll find a solution.
Yeah. Oisin, Homejoy was, doing work in America, delivering cleaners into homes, had to close down. Part of the commentary around that was about the investors being worried about regulatory change affecting that business model. Is that something that concerns you?
I'm not going to comment on any specific competitor, because that's not what we do. I'm happy to talk about what helps some marketplaces succeed. And I think you come to Handy as a customer, and it's the same way you go to Uber or you go to Lyft, and you try and do a search for a booking. Either we can confirm the booking and make it, or we can't. And once you hit density in a market, it's really hard to compete with that. So you get to a place where customers want to be on the platform with the most cleaners and handymen. Handymen and cleaners want to be on the platform with the most customers. It's a two-sided marketplace. You end up at this place where once you become a multiple bigger than anyone else in the category in that city, it becomes really hard to compete. And your unit economics either get materially better or materially worse, depending on what side of the scale you're on.
Well, do you look at it as like that as well, which is sort of a get big quick game? If you can sort of own the market quicker than someone else, you'll win. And how does that work in a space like yours that already has a bunch of players out there?
Well, there's certainly a lot of food delivery companies out there. I do think we're quite different in the sense that we're an online marketplace and a logistics platform. And that allows us to work with restaurants that don't deliver. And what that means is that the restaurants we work with are of a high quality, and you get the food quickly. So I think it is a bit different than the incumbents you've seen that were started, say, 7-8 years ago. As for, is speed important? Is scale important? Yes, of course it is. But, we're still in a pretty nascent stage for our type of business.
Yeah.
I just had one last thing. I think that what everybody's saying here, the contractor model, of course, flexibility is really important. These are billion-dollar companies that are being built on the back of these workers, and really, if it is the flexibility piece, who's actually creating the real jobs? If we just have every company that's getting hundreds of millions of dollars, if they're just going after employing these these contractors for flexibility, like who's actually creating the real jobs that people really need? I don't think a lot of people are really focused on that. And especially because like, do these on-demand companies exist? It's because they have workers, that they're providing some sort of physical service, but nobody's really like creating the 9-to-5 steady jobs that people do want.
Yeah.
Especially outside of the major hubs.
Neil, is this something that concerns you? I mean, there are some people who say that technology is replacing a set of jobs in the labor market, maybe in some areas faster than are being replaced. The next wave of on-demand may involve automation and drones and self-drive vehicles. What do you think the right response of the tech industry should be to this?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen that movie play out that way. There have been successive waves of technology that have really empowered people rather than, made them kind of obviated their usefulness. And I see that happening with more technology coming into this. I mean, drones, we chatted a bit about before, it's going to be unlikely to see those things flying over big cities, right? Taking over the job of a courier. In suburban areas, they might end up, serving those areas, but they're really enabling a new geography for some of these guys, which wouldn't be economic in a car or on a bike. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
I think it's the same on both sides of the platform, right? It's the same way that you make it easier to buy services, people buy more services. You make it easier to book cars, people will book more cars. They'll use more services. That's exactly the same thing. And I imagine it's the same with Ship. You're thinking people are going to use courier services more rather than less. So it's less about replacing jobs. It's more about creating more economic activity on both the demand side and on the supply side. You're seeing people use these services to earn incremental money. So I don't think it's replacement, it's incremental on both sides.
If what you do is going to be more resilient maybe to automation, we're unlikely to see robot cleaners in the next few years.
There's the Roomba thing,
There's
right?
the Roomba thing, right. Would you deploy those in
I'm not going to comment on the Roomba. Is the Roomba good?
I don't think it is. Mine kept getting stuck under the sofa.
I've never tried the Roomba. Maybe I should try a Roomba. Look, I think there are certain tasks where you need people. So there are certain things where you need cleaners, you need handymen, you need plumbers, you need electricians, you need carpenters. Those tasks, those skills, they're not going away. The need for those services isn't going away. We just want to make the buying process and the selling process easier so people can use them more.
It's hard to have an on-demand economy conversation without Uber. I tried and failed to get an Uber here this morning, but clearly huge, growing, popular. If Uber in London launched Uber for restaurants and food delivery, would that worry you? Are they the sort of 900-pound gorilla waiting to enter this market?
We respect all our competitors. Really what we're focused on is building the best food delivery company in the world. And that being said, we have a ton of respect for what they do. They hire the best people. They innovate very quickly. And so it's something, to definitely think about.
Do you think they'll do it?
Sorry?
Do you think they'll do it in London, say, or in Dublin?
From what I understand, I don't really know. It looks like they're rolling out different food delivery options around the world.
Kevin, I mean, does this keep you awake at night? Is Travis going to do this?
Yeah, I think with us, our service, for anybody that doesn't know, we'll press a button, we'll come to your home, less than 20 minutes, we'll take unpackaged items, we'll take them back to our warehouse, professionally package them and ship them out. I think our service is really, really complicated. But yeah, I think Uber is the new Google or Facebook. Everybody's where are they really going to go? And they probably are going to go into other spaces, but they're also going to fail on a lot of things. They can't be the best at everything. And I think they are a great ride sharing service though.
Yeah.
I had the same problems this morning as well though.
Yeah. Now, are there any sort of category lessons? You've worked with entrepreneurs who've been fighting off Amazon in previous years, or taking on Google and other companies. If you're in an on-demand space and there's sort of Uber waiting in the shadows, are there things you might be able to do to kind of hold them off? What would you want to see entrepreneurs doing?
Yeah, I think it's hard to imagine, to sort of abdicate the entire realm of logistics to one company. That's too big even for their own ambitions,
Right.
in their own words. And so, I mean, we just have to keep our heads on our shoulders and recognize that this is multiple, very, very large industries, and that the way you win this is not by sort of taking over the world all at once. It's by picking a postcode and working it until you've got lots of very happy customers, and then moving to the next postcode and taking over the world that way. And you can really only do that if you're dedicated to one product. If it's, a sub-product of a subdivision, in the labs part of your company, it's unlikely to get that kind of focus and, iteration and learning.
Has that been your approach? And how, Handy, and how do you strike that balance? There's obviously a pressure,
Liquidity.
Inbuilt pressure as well as external, to grow quickly and scale. But
So-
if the focus is making customers happy geography by geography, there's a...
So Handy hasn't launched a single city in the last 18 months. We've maintained incredible focus on the 28 cities that we're in. We have very disciplined. We've said, this is exactly what you said. This is about liquidity, and liquidity comes from density in an area. So the best customer experience, the best pro experience comes from having density in every single zip code and every single city that you're in. And we've been very focused on that for the last 18 months.
And when do you expect that to
Look,
shift?
we think we probably got 6 more months. We've been a little opportunistic, or we may continue to be opportunistic as things come up, but we're going to maintain another 6 months of focus on how do we continue to improve the experience in existing cities so that whenever you come to Handy, it's not 95% of the time, but it's 99% of the time that you do a search, you can have a great experience.
Right. And as I said at the start, all of you are very talented, could be doing other things. If tomorrow Amazon bought your companies for $100 billion and you had some time in your hands, what new on-demand company would you start? Will?
I've been paying attention. Well, I'm not sure I would start another on-demand company, to be honest. It's incredibly gritty work. It's awesome, but it is a lot of work. I've been paying attention to the pharmaceutical space. I think that's pretty interesting.
All right. So, drugs on demand.
Yes.
Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I would do I don't know. I like really big ideas, and like for me, my mission is just to have a really big impact in the world in some way. And like I've been so focused, honestly, haven't even thought about that, of course. But just look at a really big industry. How can you have a really big impact? How can you fundamentally change something?
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do at Ship, and I think that anything that I do in the future is going to be very similar.
Neil, where do you think the opportunity is going next on the on-demand economy? What are you expecting entrepreneurs to be pitching you in a few years?
I mean, I'm just a parasite on this whole thing.
That might be the tweet of the...
Yeah. Thanks for instructing people to do that. But I think there's kind of no end to what great entrepreneurs will pick off. I mean, if you look at the sectors of the economy, healthcare, transportation, education. As long as there are people who can't get a cab or can't do this, I mean, you just add up the hours that are spent in frustrating experiences. Those are all ready to be disrupted.
Yeah. Oisin, last word to you. Where's the opportunity? Lots of entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs in the room. What should they be working on the on-demand economy?
Look, we're just getting started. We want to deliver every service to every home. I don't think we're at a place where we're even thinking about selling. I think focus on big markets where you've got an inherent advantage with people that you want to work with.
Fair enough. Well, that is the on-demand economy. Impact on jobs, I think, in a very positive way. Big changes to government policy and regulation, and also big missions and big ideas and big disruptive change happening. So please give a very, very big round of applause to Will Shu from Deliveroo, Kevin Gibson from Ship, Oisin Hanrahan from Handy, and Neil Reimer from Index Ventures. Thank you.